All right, everyone. Saturday and Celtic are through to the last eight of the Premier Sports Cup. It was a 4-1 victory over Falkirk last night. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to be positive today. And Scott's going to be positive today, I think. Scott, hello.
Yes, good morning, Hamish. Yeah, I'm going to be positive too because it was a positive performance.
Yeah, I mean, it genuinely was. I thought it was, quite an enjoyable game. Falkirk, I don't think, were at like the same level as they were the game last season. I think that was a point Michael Stewart made a few times in the commentary, saying that they were really confident this time. It felt like their passing wasn't quite as good, but I still felt they offered something to the game. Like it wasn't a totally defensive performance like we see so often in games at Celtic Park. So they had a couple of chances. Sinizalo made a pretty good save in the first half, a couple of other wee openings. But I mean, clearly we were the dominant team, but I thought it was just quite an enjoyable game to watch. There was like a vibrancy. The stadium was pretty full. I think the crowd was like 43,000, which is pretty good for a Friday night in a game that's not in the season ticket. So that's a long way of me saying that I enjoyed sitting down and watching the game. I think a bit more than I'd enjoyed the previous two games this season.
Yeah, and I think that was Celtic setting the standard early. There was a lot of talk pre-game and post-game about imposing yourself in the first 5 minutes. And that, I think, allowed... You've got an opponent that doesn't just sit back and park the bus for 90 minutes and try to survive. They do try and get out. They just didn't have the passing generally to get up the field because our pressing was so good. And there was a good tempo to the game from first minute to last. And I think that's what made this such a pleasing performance to watch and a game that was enjoyable as a fan.
So starting 11, everyone, a few changes. I'm not quite totaled up exactly how many. I can do it very quickly
6.
here. I'm sure you Scott's on it today, everyone. Good stuff. So who were they, Scott? Can you do that quickly?
God. Sinizalo, Murray, Trusty. Yep. We had Engels, McCowan, and Johnny Kenny.
Yeah. So those were the six changes. That's a terrible way of doing the team, everyone. The team was Sinizalo, Johnston, Murray, Trusty, Tierney, McGregor, McCowan, Engels, Forrest, Maida, Kenny. So kind of making changes in all of the positions where we could make changes. So obviously left back is not a position we can make changes at the moment because we kind of only have one actual trusted left back. Left wing, kind of same issue there. But yeah, a few changes. Good to see Dane Murray getting a chance. We can come on and talk about him. Big day for him. And we got to kind of rest a few players. I think Ida didn't play at all. Hitati didn't play at all. Schmeichel, Carter Vickers, I think Nygren played a few minutes. So, a good opportunity to rest some players, but a good level of performance as well. I thought you've already brought this point up, but like the intent was there right from the start. That was the big thing. Like the tempo was there. We had the multi-ball system that for some reason I've never noticed as much watching a Celtic game, maybe since the Ange days. But it just felt like the minute the ball went out, there was like a real urgency to go and fetch that ball and get it back in play. So a clear kind of intent to keep the tempo high.
Yeah, I think Sinizalo's clearly got it in his kit bag, but he's probably learned it off of Schmeichel as well. That speed of getting it going, like half the time you didn't know it had come back into play. It was just play continued like it hadn't stopped. So again, that's the first time we've really got to see it. We're not going to see it at Pittodrie, of course, but compared to the St Mirren game where it got a bit stodgy, they were very compact, very organised, and we're trying to work around the edges. This allowed just to make the field really long and just keep that running. The passing was excellent today, I thought. It was clearly all round. It was the best game that we've played this year, and we're starting to see that Celtic football brand starting to come through. I think I was pondering last night, like, have we had a more stilted pre-season like we've just had? So we didn't just have the multiple places we went and played football at, but you had guys coming back a week out from the start of the season because you've got international football, you've got, Carter Vickers
weddings.
injury and stuff. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. It just seemed like the squad never really had a chance to settle before we played St Mirren. So I think we've had 2 weeks of that. We've handled it really well. And then now we're starting to see what we saw from week 1 last year by comparison. So I just sort of think like we're just starting to tick over. And everyone looked a bit sharper. AJ was sharper. Trusty looked really good today. And he's got the pace that I think he's Sinisalo. He's clearly the senior man compared to Dane Murray. He mentored that whole back for the middle there. He was the boss today, Trusty. And that pace coming out of the back allowed Tierney and Maeda to start working on that relationship more. And that was a really big improvement as opposed to Aberdeen, where it sort of seemed a bit stilted at times. They're still getting used to each other, but today you saw that improvement. And then you had Arne Engels, probably played the best game he's had for ages. His distribution today, particularly from the dead ball, was brilliant, I thought, for the large part. And, had we had a striker in form, demanding the ball in the middle, maybe we score a couple more in that first half. But yeah, overall, it was excellent.
A lot, yeah. I felt the same way. I don't know if you agree, but I felt like we're really keen to put crosses into the box, like more so than like at any point last season, really. And I'm not sure. It's obviously some sort of directive from the Brendan Rodgers or the coaching team or whatever. But it was like, God, like the first 20-25 minutes, we've probably had about 12 or 13 crosses into the box. Tierney, which I guess it's kind of like Greg Taylor didn't really do that, did he? But it's very much Kieran Tierney's game that if he's got an opportunity to fizz a cross in, he'll do it. And it just didn't quite get in the end of things today. Johnny Kenny, it was kind of a little bit of a frustrating one for him in that like we had so much of the ball, but he didn't really get too many chances. He kind of had that one early on in the game where James Forrest kind of cushions it and sets it up for him and he puts it over the bar. But yeah, you were just kind of hoping that he'd maybe got in the end of something. But I thought, yeah, generally that left side of the team was really starting to come together. Tierney, Maeda, like we've got no worries over that. We know that they're both just brilliant players. They're going to hit it off at some stage. Tierney's like passing. I think a thing I forgot about his game was you always think of like his direct running and his crossing and his cutbacks and his aggression and his tackling and all that stuff. But like the quality of his passing up the line is excellent. Like see that one when he just wraps it round for like Dyson to run onto. It's a joy to watch. I'm very excited about that thing. By the way, everyone, Scott's kind of been slightly plunged into darkness. We can still see you. While I was talking there, it happened, but we'll make the most of it. But what do you make of that, Scott?
Yeah, it was the variety of passes coming in from him today as well. Earlier games, it was sort of almost a high looping cross, which could easily be dealt with. But these were coming in at varying heights, speeds, angles, like it's really starting to come along. So it fills you with a lot of confidence that we can create the opportunity. We just need someone on the end of it. We've scored 7 goals so far this year, and none have come from a striker. So that's an area of concern, I think.
God, that's a good stat. So what were we tonight? We were Johnston, Murray, own goal, and the first one was Maeda. So yeah, kind of left. Yeah, so none of them have come from Ida or Yamada or Kenny. What would you make of Johnny Kenny tonight?
He looked short of a run, and he seemed to maybe not always be in the right area. I remember a pass, McCown. This is marvelous.
Just shine it under you like that. Give us all a fright.
Hey, happy Halloween. McCowan had done well to keep the ball in a tight area. Passes the ball in, it's probably just around the center circle. Tries to get it to Kenny. it's a turnover, but you can hear McCowan berate him, telling him where he should have been. And there's a few instances there, particularly when we're surging towards goal, where you can kind of see that maybe he's not in the right position. He's loitering around the back post rather than maybe being more sort of central. You compare that to Yamada when he comes on late. He doesn't get a lot of opportunities, but he's sort of in that area where Kyogo used to run through the middle of the goal, all the way to the goal line. And that was something Ange used to always say, we want bodies moving towards goal. Kenny doesn't really look like he was doing that today. Normally he's a hard worker and he's trying his buzz around, he's being busy, and maybe something can be created. But today he didn't have it. And I don't know what it is, but I think he was generally just not in the right position. There was a couple of times where he bumped into teammates. So maybe he just had one of those days where he was a bit bumbly, but it really does show that against quality opposition, when we create those opportunities, we need someone there to finish off the work.
Yeah, and that's why Brendan Rodgers and just about everyone else wants us to sign a striker and a right winger and potentially another left wing option as well. Dane Murray got his first goal for Celtic. Nice header as well from one of those great Arnie Engels deliveries you were talking about on the day when Dane Murray signed a new contract at Celtic until June 2028. Brendan Rodgers talking about him after the game. I think it's very clear Brendan Rodgers likes Dane Murray. Spoke about like his kind of height, 6'4", I think he is, and he looks big now. Dane Murray, like he's a man now. And his speed as well, which is something I've not really noticed, but Brendan Rodgers says it, and the way he can handle the ball. He said, one part for him to develop is his concentration, which is interesting. And I kind of feel the same way about Austin Trusty. Like, I think Austin Trusty has all the raw attributes, and I agree with you that I thought he looked pretty good. But there's just the kind of odd moments where you just feel he goes a little bit lax, and maybe Dane Murray has the same thing. And they need to look at Cameron Carter-Vickers for a guy who is just like always switched on, doesn't really make mistakes. Like, we can count Cameron Carter-Vickers' mistakes at Celtic on one hand, and he's been with us for about 4 or 5 years. So they need to look at him. But I thought the two of them were really good, and I want to see more of them this season. Sinizalo, one good save from a Calvin Miller shot, which is actually quite an underrated save, I thought, right, down to his right to tip it away. I think it was just curling in. Any other players? I really like Luke McCowan. I just think Luke McCowan's a lovely player to watch.
Yeah, and he was in it early, and he's got a bit of the Callum McGregor about him. You could really hear him on the mics. There were certain stages of the game where the effects mics at ground level were picking up things being said, and you can hear Luke McCowan. And he's not afraid to tell you if you bugger something up. And you know that if he buggers it up, he'll go and work hard to get it back. That's just the way he is. So I think we can be very confident that at least domestically, we've got a good player there in McCowan that we can slot in there just about any situation, and we can be confident that he'll by and large get the job done. He fit in with Cal and Engels today and didn't look out of place at all.
Brendan Rodgers talking up Arnie Engels after the game, talking up his attitude and work rate especially, so that's positive. And Brendan Rodgers, just overall happy with the performance. Says we were great with the ball in the first half, not great without the ball, which I kind of get. As I say, Falkirk had a few forays forward, and I think our pressing was just maybe ever so slightly off, and we corrected that at the break. And I think we were like totally dominant in the second half. Potentially when you go 4-0 up, you would hope that you'd maybe score a few more, and that didn't quite happen. The Falkirk goal was excellent, wasn't it? That was a screamer from the right back.
Yeah, at first glance, I thought it was just Scales standing too far off him, but seeing it a couple more times, it actually comes to his right. I thought it went to his left initially. So it comes to his right. I'm not sure there's really much he can do. Trusty's not going to see the ball till it's on him, and that left Sinasalo with absolutely no hope at all because it's hit the opposite corner. So it's just a really well taken goal. Not bad for a guy who was playing for Cumbernauld like 12 months ago. So
Is he studying history or something like that? Did you hear
history
that in
and
the commentary?
politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, history and politics. So probably an interesting chat over a beer or two, I think.
Yeah.
But it was apparently studying law as well. So bit of a smarty pants.
Yeah, no, that was an absolute cracker. Nothing Senizala could do about that. Anything later on, and I say that everyone because I've got a slight admission to make, and this isn't great for a guy who does his YouTube channel talking about Celtic games, but I haven't actually seen the last 15 minutes for reasons that I won't go into. I don't think I missed a great deal. How did Shin do? Because I saw him coming on and huffing and puffing a little bit.
Yeah, he worked hard. He did press a fair bit. He didn't really get any service at all, to be fair. I'm not sure where he's going to fit, but like I said earlier, I think he was running to the right area. So eventually that ball's going to get to him. The highlights you've highlighted from Japan, it's a lot of sort of poachers type goals. So he's in those areas. Just the ball didn't go there. We didn't create a hell of a lot of chances in the last 10 minutes, but the work rate by the entire team was there, and that pace and that effort, especially when we didn't have the ball, that was still evident at the 80, 85th and 90th minutes as well.
Yeah. Good attitude, good job done from Celtic, good job everyone who went along as well. The crowd was 42,960, which I was only 857 away yesterday when I gave my official crowd prediction, which was a good guess. But yeah, 43,000, good crowd. I actually thought it looked a bit busier than that as well. It looked like a good atmosphere, and yeah, cup games are enjoyable because the stadium's actually, like, it looks fuller. Like a lot of the league games, you have season ticket holders who don't bother to turn up for whatever reason. And, you know, at times it can look a little bit patchy in the stadium, but I thought it looked good. So good job there. Just in case you're wondering, the draw for the quarterfinals of the Premier Sports Cup will take place this evening. It's a Saturday night. It'll be broadcast live on Premier Sports following their coverage of Rangers versus Alloa Athletic. Kick-off for that one is 5:45. Rangers should win that one, eh? They'll probably get a wee domestic victory finally against Alloa Athletic, but we'll wait and see. And just a reminder, everyone, Celtic AM is brought to you by NordVPN, the fastest, most reliable way to protect your online activity and unlock football from anywhere in the world. Grab our exclusive deal right now at nordvpn.com/Celtic AM. In terms of stuff happening after the game, Brendan Rodgers talking a little bit about transfers. I don't know if you've caught this, but I think on his BBC Radio Scotland interview, he's getting a little bit fed up with the constant questions about transfers. I think I've not heard it, but I think he basically answered one question and then was asked the same thing again and said, "As I've already said." So, I mean, why wouldn't you be getting fed up? He's talking about it more than me, and I'm absolutely fed up with all this stuff. He did make an interesting point, Scott, about spending a little more money for quality, and this was based on the Arnie Engels stuff. And the quote from Brendan Rodgers is, "This is a guy who has potential, but it costs a little bit more. He's nowhere near the finished article. We've just had to pay more for potential. You can buy potential at £1 million and £2 million. And a lot of the time it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. I will tell you a lot of the time it doesn't. But him, we've had to pay a little bit more to get the athleticism, to get the physicality that this team needed. And now I've got great options in there. Guys that are physical, but guys that are technical. So I don't complain." I think for me, like, that's the key point with Arnie Engels. People felt, maybe rightly or wrongly, that because we were spending like a club record 11 million, whatever it was, that like Engels was coming right in to like immediately just be a ready-made star for Celtic. And the reality was that he's still a young player we're signing, who we're going to, you know, he comes in with a lot of potential, and we're going to hopefully develop him to be a better player over a number of years. But you're just buying a little bit more kind of surefire quality. Hopefully it's less of a punt. And I know Engels hasn't been spectacular so far, but I do think it's a point that, you know, a lot of people kind of overlook, is that, right, last summer we spent big money on Engels, Ida and Trusty, and I know all three of them have, you know, a lot of criticism, or have had a lot of criticism, and some of it is warranted. But you look at how good we were in the Champions League last year, and those three all played a huge part. Ida scores 3 goals, big part in the young boys' goal as well. It's an own goal. You have Engels, and who plays virtually every game in the Champions League last year. Trusty played virtually every game in the Champions League. Those guys who, have question marks over them, and I think they all still need to improve, obviously. But those 3 signings did, make a difference for us in Europe last year when you look at the overall team and what we achieved in Europe. So, yeah, we need to keep spending money. I think it's a fear we all have, Scott, that like the fact that maybe those players haven't quite been as spectacular as some people would have hoped, that maybe the board are a little bit reticent to spend big money again. But we have to keep doing it. This is a transfer plan. We've got the money there. Spend the money, basically, is my upshot here.
Yeah, I've said before, I think we should be playing in that $6 to $12 million bracket a bit more. Every rumour has pretty much been someone we're lowballing for under $5 million. Oh, pounds, sorry. That's that. You may find a guy that's sort of, a 50-50 and he works out and he's sort of your 80-20 kind of player. A guy like Engels, he's coming to you with about 60-70% of his potential, and you're trying to add 20 or 30 on that. He's going to be a difference maker in Europe. And I think that's what Trusty's there for. That's what we're hoping for with Ida, because they've played their developing years in more expansive football, where it's a bit more open. You go to Scotland, it's a bit more physical. You got teams that'll play anti-football and just park the bus. And so that makes that ability to play your natural way a little bit harder. But that's also where you got to develop, because if you can be that all-round player, that's when you're the superstar, right? I think it's still there for Engels. You want to see a bit more, but I think we'll see. I think he gave Brendan Rodgers a headache today, a good one. Does he start Engels for a European qualifier, or does he start Negrin, who, looks like he's going to be a really good player for us, but is a European good for us? And that's going to be, I think, the things that Brendan Rodgers is going to have to toss up when deciding his starting 11 for Wednesday. I would probably lean towards Engels, because I think it's going to be an open type of game. I think it's going to be a little bit like the Falkirk game today. I think our Matty will, not be too compact at the back and try and hit us on the counter. And I think a player like Engels can exploit the gaps that'll open. You'll also probably have Hatate in there as well. So those two players, I think, could be really crucial on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in terms of, Engels is giving the manager something to think about. I do think he'll go with McGregor, Hatate, Negrin, but we'll potentially see Engels off the bench. But as we get more and more of these games, like next Saturday, for example, against Livingston, I think you'll probably see Engels and McCowan back in, and I would have Paulo Bernardo at the base of that midfield, or potentially, Arnie Engels at the base of that midfield. I wouldn't be playing Callum McGregor next Saturday against Livingston, but we know that McGregor probably will, because he starts every game. But I feel good about that midfield. There's real good options here. I like all 6 of the players. I like Paulo Bernardo as well. I know he got 15 minutes against Falkirk, but he can barely get a look in at the moment, which is difficult for him. But I guess that shows the strength we have in that position. But yeah, I was going to ask you about early team for Kairat. So I mean, Casper will be back in, won't he? It'll be Johnston, Carter Vickers, Scales, Tierney seems pretty likely. Midfield, obviously, we can have the debate. I think it'll be McGregor, Hatate, Negrin. So you're going kind of the midfield from last season in the Champions League. You think Engels could come in next to Hatate?
I think he could. I mean, if Negrin gets the start, he gets the start. But yeah, I think this could be the sort of game that you see the best attributes of Engels come out and be that creative player on that side of the field. And then you'd probably have Adam Eder starting, I think.
Yeah, Eder will start.
You haven't seen enough from Shin, and Kenny looked off it tonight. He was probably the only player that you'd probably put like a negative towards in in what he did. And that's not to knock him. It's just the level of play was quite high tonight, and he just couldn't get onto the end of anything that really came in. So yeah, I think he'll go with either a more open sort of game. I think that suits either. Big body. I know nothing about K-Rat, so I'm only assuming because of their ranking and that what we might be up against. But I also don't think we're going to run away with it in the first leg, like we're probably needing to, really.
Yeah. There's a sense of pressure, isn't there? Like, because the pressure's kind of on us to win the game. You really don't want to be going over there, like, even with like a 1-goal advantage from the first leg. You kind of feel potentially need at least 2, possibly even more than that, because it's going to be tough over there. They've got a really good home record. The conditions are difficult. It's a long way to travel. We know all this stuff. It's quite a hostile ground as well, from what I've seen. So we really need to maximise our advantage in the home leg. But I'm confident of us doing that. Like, I think Celtic are capable of winning quite convincingly. Maybe 2 or possibly even 3 goals. But there is a sense of pressure on the team on Wednesday night. I don't know if K-Rat have any pressure on them in this tie. I could be wrong. Maybe back home they maybe expect K-Rat to find a way to get through. But I sense that they're kind of playing with house money at this stage, and that they've guaranteed a league phase football in the Europa League worst case scenario, which is, I think, I don't know for sure, but I would assume kind of one of the best achievements they've ever had. So yeah, they might feel like the pressure's all on us. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, front 3, I think, James Forrest, Daizen Maeda, Adam Ida. I'm pretty sure that'll be the team. Midfield, I think, is maybe the one area, but other than that, Yang's not going to start, Kenny's not going to start, Shin's not going to start. I think Scales and Carter Vickers will be the centre-back partnership. So yeah, looking forward to it. Scott, anything else? We won't come to you for some expert analysis on K-Rat then.
No, not for me. Unless you want to find a good flight deal from Australia, because I've been looking that up.
I did actually have a look as well.
So relatively close.
we could have been buddies on the flight, but I think it was kind of taking me about the same time to get to Almaty as it was back to Glasgow. Like, it was a bit ridiculous. I think you fly via Dubai or somewhere like that, but yeah.
Dubai and Doha were really popular, but I did find one $900 round flight that took me through Shanghai. And I think traveling east of the Himalayas is the better route than going all the way to the Middle East and sort of halfway back and then do that trip in reverse. Yeah. But then you got to consider, like, there's visas you got to get too. China's a little bit timely, and I have no idea about Kazakhstan and how their system works. So I did contemplate it for all of about 5 minutes, but yeah, talking about the team, I got no idea. I do know that Almaty used to be the capital, though. That I do know. And that Borat, the movie, is banned in Kazakhstan.
Is it?
Yes.
Wow. That is insane. I've never actually watched Borat, but I was going to say maybe I'll watch it ahead of the game. I'm not going to. I can reliably inform you of that. Have we got anyone here going to Almaty? It's probably a long shot, because I'm guessing we'll probably have like less than 100 fans there. But let us know if you are. It'd be great to catch up with you. We'll leave it there. Scott, lovely to speak to you. I think we're next on after the derby, potentially from the turf. So that could be a fun one. At the turf
for the first time this year?
Could be a fun one. Could be a totally miserable one as well.
It'll be cranking in there that night. First derbies of the year, always packed. So, yeah, if you're in Melbourne, get on down, because it's going to be a good one.
Okay, so we'll be in our usual place in the pub after that game. That's when we'll next catch up with you, Scott. But thanks very much for coming on. Thanks everyone for watching. And I think the plan's to come back Monday morning and get back into things. So speak to you then.